Hey everyone, back with another video. So today I'll be talking about Polar's selectors using Python. And selectors are a really powerful tool that Polars has built in that enables you to point to multiple columns simultaneously using a variety of criteria. So of course in Polars you have you have a default option of just pointing to one column at a time and manipulating that column. But what selectors allows you to do is to select multiple columns at the same time and then manipulate all those columns. So it saves you a lot of typing and a lot of different lines of code. And so it's a really exciting tool that I love using, and so we'll take a look at it. The data set I'll be using is just county level population data taken from the United States Census Bureau. These are just the first 10 rows. So it's just every county in the United States and its corresponding populations. And so we'll just take a quick look. I won't go over how I read the data in because that's not our primary focus. So we'll just take a look at how we just select columns, just writing them in one by one. And so in this table right here, I read in all the columns. I'm interested in 3 columns, and I write those columns in one by one using the select context. But if we look at this, but what if we wanted to look at even more columns that start with this pop estimate? What if we have multiple years of population data? So this is the population in 2020. If we look at our input data frame, we can see that there are multiple years worth of data in here. And so there's 5 years worth of data in here, including 2020. And writing all that in would take a lot of typing and perhaps a lot of different lines of code. And what if there were like 100 different variants of this variable? That would be really, really labor intensive. So what if there were a way to just point to columns that started with pop estimate right here, because the suffix changes, but the prefix doesn't. So Polars does give you a way to do that, and it's with something called selectors. And so the way you bring in the selectors is you type in polars.selectors, and then the common alias you see in the documentation is to put it as CS, which of course I think stands for column selectors. And there's a whole bunch of different criteria you can use for selectors. So for example, the categorical selector selects all categorical columns. The date selector selects all date columns. So if we were to specify this, it would select any column that is of date type. But the one we're going to use to select these pop estimate columns, we are going to use the starts with selector. So it selects columns that start with a given substring. And again, the substring we're interested in here is this pop estimate column. So yeah, big time spoilers, I already wrote this out, but here's what it looks like. So we're going to print the counties data set, and we're going to select state name, county name as before. But right here, so the way we select these pop estimate columns is we start with CS, and then dot, and then starts with, and then the substring. So this tells Polars that any column that starts with pop estimate, select that one. And so if we run this code, we should get these 5 pop estimate columns here, in addition to these 2 geography columns. Okay, we'll update our output here. And so there we have it. You'll notice we have all 5 of our pop estimate columns here. And you'll notice we didn't have to write each of those in individually. We were able to select all these at the same time using cs.startswith. So cs.startswith and endswith are some of my favorite contexts, but there's other selectors you can use to help you manipulate the data. So notice that we have 2 strings in here. And so let's say we had data cleaning task where we wanted to take all the string columns globally in a data frame and change the casing to those to uppercase or lowercase or whatever it might be. For this example, we'll do uppercase. If we had a lot of string columns, that would be a lot of work, but there is a way to select all these globally. And if we go back to the documentation here, you'll notice there's this selector called string, and it's to select all string columns. And so if we select all the string columns and then use the string to uppercase method, that should instruct pollers to uppercase all the string columns. And so we'll take a look at what that looks like. So here's how we would change the casing of all the string columns to uppercase. So we would start with the counties dataset, and then we'd use with columns because we want to just manipulate a few columns but keep everything else. And then to select all the string columns, we would use cs, so column selectors, dot string, because that's the selector method that we're interested in. And then since we want to manipulate all these string columns using a string method, we do .str and then to uppercase. And so what that should do is it should select all the string columns again, and it should change those to uppercase. So we'll go ahead and run that. Okay. And so there we have it. All of our string columns are now uppercase. So guys, that is just the tip of the iceberg as to what selectors can do. Again, selectors allow you to select and manipulate groups of columns rather than writing them in one at a time. Again, there's way too many selectors to go over in a single video, but if you see any in the documentation that you'd like me to go over, I'd be happy to make another video on those. So thanks so much for watching, and have a good day.